Welcome to Lesson 7. We are going to talk about the equity allocation level. Each individual trading system complies with a very conservative approach, as it places market orders whose face value is lower than or equal to the equity at the inception of the observation period. No trading system here makes use of leveraging. Quite the opposite, they invest something less than the equity. That is quite a conservative approach. The maximum amount invested on one trade is equal to the equity. That occurs when all base learners are in accordance. See Lesson 2 to these regards. From a system combination perspective, though, having more systems working at the same time on the same account, meaning with the same equity, begets overallocation. That means that on the same day we may have more positions on the market for an overall exposure that exceeds the equity. For instance, we may have an exposure, an overall notional value invested, which equals 2 times the equity. Not always, but on just some days it might happen. By means of allocation weights, it is possible to overcome that, for instance making each system work at half position size. We define the metric size as the ratio of the overall notional value to the equity. We will refer to it in the next slides. The overall position size per day of all trading systems involved is then reckoned and plotted here. The pie chart here represents the distribution of the sides by day. The smaller the pie slice, the smaller the fraction of time that it represents. The red pie slice, for instance, represents a size of 2, meaning an exposure twice as big as the equity. That occurs just 5% of time. Overallocation, meaning a size value greater than 1, occurs when the trading systems overlap with each other. Overlap, in turn, depends on a few factors. The trigger rate, meaning how many trades per year the system delivers. The average trade holding period, meaning how long each position is held on the market. Constraints regarding the triggers. For instance, the long and the short trading systems on the same contract and on the same time frame never go to the market together. They are mutually exclusive, as a matter of fact. These are trading system design parameters. If they fail to keep overallocation under control, then the allocation weights come handy to this purpose. Let's see what happens with our four-system combination. This bar chart recounts the fraction of time that the trading system is on the market. That fraction is plotted as a green bar, which is compared to the gray bar representing the time off the market. That fraction, in turn, depends on the trigger rate and on the average holding period, which are also reported separately. Let's have a look at each system involved in our combination. We see here that the moderate long strategy on gold is the most selective system, meaning that it stays on the market less than any other system. The average size of each trading system is also reported by the perf component. The average size of the combination as a whole is 79%, meaning that the notional value of the positions held by our trades is 79% of the equity on average. There are sharp differences, though, between the systems. The greedy strategy on gold is the most conservative one, placing just half-size position trades on average. At last, we come to the pie chart presented at the beginning of this video, representing the size distribution over time. The figure on the top, highlighted in green, represents the average size by calendar day. That accounts for the 365 days in a year. Besides, we have a refined estimate, which accounts just for the market days. Let's have a look at the figures. The average size is close to 1, meaning that the overall exposure to the market of the system combination does not exceed the equity. That occurs on the average market day. That sounds good. Remark that it is the overall chart. That refers to both contracts, gold and US stock index, and to both position sides, long and short. Hence, the overallocation peak reported here, the red pie slice, can't be really regarded as a market exposure metric. Let me say that it is rather a figure aimed at estimating the margin consumed by the system combination. In this real-life example, we have a size peak of 2.5. Then, the margin necessary to get the system combination work is 10%, assuming a 4% average margin on our contracts. In order to deal with the market exposure, we have to disaggregate our pie chart by contract and position side. Here, we account for the long positions on the gold contract. As usual, we have an all-day estimate and a market day estimate. Our exposure on the gold contract on the long side amounts to 0.73, which sounds good. We have, though, an overallocation peak where the overall notional value on said contract on the buy side is 50% higher than the equity. That occurs 12% of the time, which is rather conservative. Drawing conclusions, our market exposure on gold on the buy side is moderate. The average market exposure on the US stock index on the buy side is less than the equity. There are no overallocation peaks here too. Drawing conclusion, both the margin requirement and the market exposure of our system combination are moderate. Thanks for watching, and see you at Lesson 7, Part B.